Hi, everyone. Thanks for participating in this little micro learning session. I'm happy that you have found the Tell Me About Your Food Exploration handout helpful. And I'm going to share with you how I use this handout as well as two other handouts that I use in feeding therapy with some of my older kids. So typically I use this handout for children over the age of 4, and it works very well even up to age 9, 10. Because I find a lot of those kids are wanting to be interactive with screen shares. I do a lot of my feeding therapy for that age group, sort of on the screen, or parents are wanting handouts and want to support their child at home. So this is a great handout. You can have families print it out, laminate it, and use it during snack time or food exploration. Or if you're doing virtual therapy like me, you can use this as a screen share and walk the child through. So I'll show you very quickly how I use this handout in part of my sessions. I'll often have the parents and the child prepare the food ahead of time and ask them to bring along with them a food they like, a new food, and a hit and miss food, so food that's not always accepted. And so I'll ask the child, tell me about your food. What do you have in front of you today? Oftentimes it's really helpful if that new food, you're already aware of which new food they're working on, or it's something that you and the parent and the child had selected before as something that's new to them. So if the child is telling me, well, today mom prepared me a banana, for example, I'll be able to screen share with them and have them kind of describe to me what that food is like. Sometimes what I also like to do is say, I'm going to try and guess what food you have in front of you today on your plate that mom prepared you for snack. We're going to go through all the components of this food, and I'm going to see if I can guess correctly what food you have. And that's a lot of fun for them too. So they'll tell me, for example, if their food is yellow, they can easily tick off here. They'll tell me it's sort of long, rectangular shaped. If they were to feel it, tell me, what does the food feel like? Has it come out of the fridge? Is it very cold? Has it come out off of the counter? Is it kind of warm? Is it dry, or is it crumbly? Is it something that's a little slimy today, or is it soft, or is it hard? So they're able to kind of walk through all the component parts of it. And if they're not sure, that provides them that opportunity to kind of explore that food in the context of just telling me more about it, rather than that pressure of having them eat it. This is fun too, in terms of asking them, what would it sound like if you snapped it in half? What would it sound like if you squished it in your fingers? What would it sound like if you mashed it with a potato masher? And so they're able to tell me, no, it doesn't snap in half. It doesn't make a kind of cracking noise. It does sound kind of soft and mushy, or it sounds very squishy when I kind of move it around in the bowl. I'll have them smell it. So again, we're trying to approximate bringing that new food closer and closer to their mouth. And so smelling it is going to be something that's really helpful. Tell me, what does it smell like? Is it minty? Is it sour? Is it sweet? Is it spicy? And they're able to, again, kind of guide me that way. If they're able and willing to tell me, what does it taste like? This one sometimes gets a little tricky. So you can have the child peel it and ask the parent, can you taste it and tell me what you taste? We're just trying to promote more interaction with that new food. If they're unsure, you could say, if you were to just tap it to your lips or tap it to your tongue, is it more salty? Is it more sour? Can you give me an idea? And oftentimes kids will surprise me and they'll actually put it in their mouth when that question is posed, rather than take a bite or will you eat it. Being curious about the food sometimes will help them get there. And so after you've gone through all of this with them, you can say, it's yellow, it's kind of rectangular, it's a little bit mushy today, it's squishy, it's sweet, it tastes sweet, it smells sweet. I think your food is a banana, right? And then they can fold it up and show it to you. You can cut it. You can talk about when you went to the grocery store and you bought bananas, what kind of bananas you like, the green ones or the brown ones. And then they really like this too. How did the banana feel today? Or what do you think about the banana? It's so-so, right? And so getting them just exposed to those new foods a little bit more. So that's that first handout. I'm going to share with you a new handout that you haven't seen yet, or that you've just recently purchased. So with some of my older kids who may not want to participate in this more fun, interactive, picture-based kind of learning. What I often do for some of my preteen kiddos is we talk a little bit about the different foods that they are wanting to work on. I have actually right now quite a few sort of teenage kids, even up to 18 years old. And so I often say, if this is up to you, this is within your control. We want to pick foods that you'd like to expand on. And so this handout is my food selection, really quick and easy handout. So it's a nice way visually to kind of give ideas rather than having the child or the youth have to think up new things. I've just put a few items from a few food groups. Obviously, this isn't exhaustive or super extensive, but for the client population that I'm seeing right now, I'm finding that parents and children are really wanting to focus on these three things. You can absolutely adapt to suit your own needs, or if you're interested in having a more extensive list, I'm happy to create that. But for my population right now, I have a lot of kids who are struggling with fruits and vegetables, and protein, I think, is a common one for a lot of kids that are struggling. So I'd like to go through a list of those food items with the child and say, let's just talk about the foods that currently are not on your list that you'd like to introduce to your list. So tell me about if any of these foods are foods that you used to eat. We know, obviously, that bringing back foods that were previously tolerated is a lot easier in terms of acceptance and familiarity and habituation of the nervous system. So I like to gather that information. And I also like to ask them, if it's not something that they previously had, are they willing to try? Are they willing to learn more about it? And oftentimes this feeds into a little bit of, what their peer groups are doing. Did I miss out on the barbecue because I don't eat burgers and I couldn't go? And so that's just a nice first step in getting some rapport building and some buy-in from the youth or the child. So again, this is really nice to do. You can print it out if you're face-to-face with a child, but if you're like me and you do a lot of virtual, it's a nice screen share to have them annotate and talk a little bit about foods that might be helpful for them, clicking through and talking about the different kinds of foods. In terms of the protein, I really kept it a little bit more vague. You can talk about, let's say they say, yeah, I'd be willing to try chicken. And then you can kind of break that down a little bit more. Well, chicken drumsticks or, chicken burgers, because you already eat burgers, or chicken breast, breaded, or chicken nuggets. So again, just kind of exploring a little bit further. This is really meant as a guide to kind of start that process and that discussion. And I like to have the family and the child keep this tacked up to their fridge or somewhere in their kitchen as a reminder of, hey, what did we say we were going to work on? And week to week, you can kind of, revisit this or, select one or two each week and go back to that initial list without having to rehash that whole conversation. So that's my food selection handout. I hope you find that helpful. And the last handout that I've created for you is our food exposure. So once you've selected those foods with the child or youth, I like to go through this and we talk a little bit about how it's going to take time. It's going to take time to learn to like bananas. You had said you used to eat bananas, you'd be interested in exploring bananas again, but you don't really know this food yet. You're not familiar with the sensory aspects of this food. And we go into a little bit more about how our bodies require multiple exposures of a new food before we can expect to put it in our mouth, chew it, and swallow it down. So what we're working on is getting those repetitions in, right? Just like we lift weights 10 times before our muscle gets strong, we're going to have to touch that banana 10 times before our body can kind of habituate to that feeling. So we're working on getting our nervous system used to it, and we're going to go slowly and we're going to go at their pace. So again, these handouts are great because you can either use them for online or you can use them as a standalone handout. So if you're annotating here, you can say, what food are you working on? Type that in here. And then again, chat a little bit about this is going to be your worksheet over the course of the next week. We decided we're going to focus on banana, again, having it on hand, somewhere visible, and as a reminder of this is our focus. So what I like to do is say, I'm going to have you bring this back to me and be able to tell me about how that went, how many exposures you had. We can fill this out either beforehand or at the session itself. So, you told me you're picking banana. How many times did you have banana this week? Well, Monday I cut it in my lunch, and Wednesday Mom prepared it for me after school snack. And then we made banana pancakes on Saturday, and then I had some banana in my smoothie on Sunday. So actually that was 4 exposures. Fantastic. You can reinforce a little bit of that and continue to build. And then what I like to do also is if you're in a session, you can say, okay, what are we going to do with this banana? So you're telling me that even just the smell of it right now, of that banana, is too strong for you. And we need to build those multiple exposures over time. So how are we going to do that? Let's talk about it. Here, it's on your plate now. We're going to just have it alongside the other food that we're eating today. We're going to just keep it on the plate and slowly get your body used to that smell and tolerance building of that new food alongside your preferred food. Even just having it further from their plate. So, if it's a real struggle for them to be close to approximating that food, you can start with that food further away at arm's length on a different plate. So this week, we just worked on keeping it near our plate. How did that go? Actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Sometimes I like to use this twice. So we say, hey, okay, today in session, we're going to work on banana and we're going to bring it closer and closer. How do you think it's going to go? And, oftentimes they'll tell me, I think it's going to be, just terrible. Like it's going to be the worst. I'm not going to be able to manage it. You can use the smiley face, or you can use a number scale on a scale of 1 to 10. How hard do you think it's going to be for you to keep that banana on your plate? I think it's going to be super hard. I think it's going to be a 10 out of 10. And then after you've done the exposure, after they've looked at it on their plate, after they've, participated in it, you can go through the question again and say, hey, you remember at the beginning of the session when we had the banana on your plate and we worked on just tolerating it? How was it actually? So you told me you thought it was going to be a 10 out of 10. You told me you thought it was going to be terrible. And then they can rescore it with a different color. They can rescore it again after and say, I thought it was going to be this, but actually it was a 7 or an 8, or it wasn't so bad. So a little bit of that mental health focus of breaking down those cognitive preconceived notions that they think are going to get in the way of their ability to tolerate the food. And it's a really nice visual to be able to say, actually, you overcame this a little bit more. It wasn't as bad as you thought. What were some of your coping strategies? How did you manage the smell of the banana? Well, I thought about something else, or I looked around the room and I did my grounding exercises, or I did some deep breathing and I was actually able to manage through. So, and of course you can build off of that, right? So if session 1, you were just working on that exposure to approximating that food closer and closer, obviously the next session you can say, okay, we're past that, you did super well, you're feeling super comfortable. The next thing we're going to work on with this new food is we're going to actually slice it and put it into the blender. So can you cut 10 kind of circles of banana for me? That's going to be our goal for today. That's going to be your exposure. So scooping it into or off of a plate, cutting it, using utensils, holding it, manipulating it without your fingers, but just interacting with it. And then, of course, building from there, I was able to smell the banana to put it closer to my face. I was able to bring it sort of to chin height, lip height, right up to my nose. You can build off of that. You can say, I smelled it for 2 seconds. I smelled it for 10 seconds. I was able to sit during the entire meal while Mom ate banana and tolerated that. So, don't be too quick to necessarily jump to the next level. You can really grade the activity throughout. And again, of course, touching the banana, I was able to tolerate with fingertip, hands, squish it, knead it into some bread, spread it onto some toast with some peanut butter and honey, able to lick it, able to chew, spit it out, hold it in your teeth, hold it in your mouth, again, for progressively longer seconds. So these are the 3 sort of handouts that I've created for that older population of kids who you're wondering, how can I structure my feeding session? How can I work on progressing feeds in a fun way that's age appropriate? So I hope that was helpful to you. And I'm sure there'll be more handouts coming up on the website. So please keep a lookout for that. Take care.